and more news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
I need your dollar, 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 that's what I need.
KBLA Talk 1580 celebrates small businesses, the enduring lifeblood of our community, with the launch of the KBLA SMB Marketplace. For the first time, small to medium-sized businesses will have an opportunity to promote their goods and services on KBLA and take advantage of our powerful reach and local marketing power. The SMB Marketplace is hosted exclusively on KBLA1580.com and is accessible from all our social media channels. Whether you're a small mom and pop restaurant, a car dealership, or a professional practitioner, we invite you to join in this new KBLA Talk 1580 initiative to promote your business. As a black-owned small business, you don't want to miss this unique opportunity to gain new customers on KBLA Talk 1580. For more information, contact us today at smb@kbla1580.com. That's smb@kbla1580.com. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
And if I share with you my story, would you share your dollar with me? Time to get it.
Conversation in this hour. I'm Tavis, Smiley, by the way. A dialogue right now with visionary artist, composer, and producer George Burton about his new album. It's called White Noise, an ode to modern black life and resilience. The track you're listening to right now is called Heard But Not Seen. Turn it up, Miles, and then we'll let George talk about it. George Burton, tell me about this track, Heard But Not Seen, sir.
Hey, Tavis, how are you?
I'm well, man.
This track is very interesting, Heard But Not Seen. I mean, it came from the idea in modern society we've come to adopt, the reverse status quo. But to a certain extent, we see a multitude of ways that are marginalized. People have heard with their artistic expressions, though through the ideas finally becoming part of the conversation, we're not always truly acknowledged,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What is that? How does that strike you? I was literally just talking to Jamie Harrison, the chair of the Democratic Party, about all the effort and outreach being targeted toward black men in this election cycle. Never in my life, of doing this for decades now, have I seen black men targeted so much in a presidential race. One can decide whether or not they think Trump has better policies or Harris does, but that black men are in the conversation, that we're in the news cycle every day. Black men. But here you come now with this point that we are that we're invisible oftentimes. We're rendered invisible. So tell me about that part and how you hope to address that in your music. This notion of us not just being heard to the extent that we are, but also being seen.
Well, being seen, I mean, it's everybody, as you were saying, we're not, we've never been talked about so much as black individuals or black males. Not in this light, I don't think, in my time.
Yeah.
But being heard, it's being heard is people are always looking at us. They want to hear what we have to say. They want things from us. They want our vote. They want things of this nature, but they never really want to bring us fully into the conversation. Mm-hmm. Bring us fully into the situation where we can make, advancements and moving forward in society. So that's what a lot of that particular track is primarily about. And it's interesting because it's not just something that happens just here in the States. And this is what this album is more about. It's about black culture in general.
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of African influence on this album also from like South Africa, and they went through their whole thing with apartheid, and
Sure.
they broke away from it 30 years ago, but they were having the same problems that we were having with Jim Crow and everything that came before that. Although their society has sort of kind of moved forward, they still run up the same problems that we run into, being heard, but really not being seen for who they are and what their needs actually are needed.
Yep. I'm going to follow you through this conversation. You just mentioned the African influences on this album, on this project called White Noise. That piece, once again, is called Heard But Not Seen. You made the point this really not just an American issue, it's a global phenomenon that black people need to be seen, as I said earlier, not rendered invisible. Somebody once said that if nobody speaks to the truth, if nobody acknowledges the truth of the suffering, then the suffering itself gets rendered invisible. Somebody has to speak to that suffering. And at our best, artists have always done that. Whether you're talking about Stevie Wonder or George Burton, there's a long list of them. But artists, black artists at their best, have always been our storytellers, the gatekeepers of truth, as somebody once said. And so it is through our art that we can forge a way for us to, again, not just be heard, but indeed to be seen lyrically, sonically, etc. I digress for now. But since you mentioned the African influences on the project, tell me about that part.
Well, I mean, so I have an amazing vocalist on there named Sia Makazuni, who is phenomenal. I mean, we have tons of conversations over the years about music, about being black, being in the States, and she's from South Africa. She's from Joburg. And, she's from the Xhosa, or I can never do the click right. It's a thing. I wish I could get it better. She laughs at me also. Yeah. But I mean, it comes from a very specific tradition of Xhosa music, where there are it's a call and response. They start with call and response, and that's much like the black church that we have here, or the black church that I grew up with. I mean, they have other things that they have going on, a lot of rhythms, a lot of percussions. And the biggest idea that I find interesting is the themes of ritual identity and storytelling. And that's what goes through the music, for the Xhosa music, for them and their society and the things that they do, which I find we kind of do in a lot of the same exact ways. So here we go again with black people being connected to each other all through the world.
I mean, you mentioned your black church. Well, let me do this right. I'm going to get my clock right quick. I'm going to cheat you, and I don't want to do that, George Burton. I love you too much to cheat.
No,
I don't
worry.
I don't want to cheat you. When we come forward, I want to dig into this question that you just raised a moment ago. And I was literally in conversation the other day. I've been at this for 30-plus years in my career, TV and radio, and there was a time much earlier in my career where there was not a single black artist, and everybody who has watched me or followed me over the years knows I love talking to artists more than anybody. I ain't hating on nobody else. I love artists because at their best, they give you the truth, unfiltered. And so the conversation ends up being richer and better when you talk to artists who will open up, as opposed to people who want to stay on message and use their talking points. No. Let's have a conversation about your artistic expression, and then the truth just starts to flow. I love talking to artists. Having said that, back in the day when I first started this, there was no artist I talked to who did not come out of a black church experience. Not always the case these days. A lot of artists, different world, different time, different generation, whose background is not necessarily in the black church, but George Burton ain't one of them. He referenced a moment ago his black church upbringing, and I think I know where he's going with that, just based on what he does musically, lyrically, and sonically. So we'll talk about that part. The new album is called White Noise. Our guest in this hour is George Burton on Tavis Smiley.
Everybody's listening to Tavis. More when we come forward.
Vice President Kamala Harris.
I get it. The cost of rent, groceries, and utilities is too high. So here's what we're going to do about it. We will lower housing costs by building more homes and crack down on landlords who are charging too much. We will lower your food and grocery bills by going after price gougers who are keeping the cost of everyday goods too high.
Kamala Harris's economic plan is focused on lowering costs for families, so you can keep more of your paycheck. That starts with the cost of housing. For first-time homebuyers, she's offering $25,000 in down payment assistance. To build wealth, her plan offers up to $50,000 in new startup tax deductions. This is exactly how we can build generational wealth and strengthen our community, so we can get the chance to do more than just get by, but to get ahead.
You work hard for your paycheck. You should get to keep more of it. As president, I'll make that my top priority.
I'm Kamala Harris, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Harris for President.
From the first day of kindergarten through the day they graduate high school, in California, 38% of students attend a public school that fails to meet minimum health standards. That's why we need Prop 2. Voting yes on Prop 2 will fund urgent repairs at local schools, protect kids from toxic mold, asbestos, and lead, ensure clean drinking water, and repair leaky ceilings and storm damage. Yes on Prop 2. To fix what's actually broken. All funds go to local schools without raising taxes. You heard that right. So join the California NAACP, nurses and teachers, and vote yes on 2. Because all our kids deserve a safe place to learn. Ad paid for by Yes on Prop 2, sponsored by Nonprofit Education, Labor and Business Associations. Ad committee's top funders, California Building Industry Association, Coalition for Adequate School Housing, California Teachers Association.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
Slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
This is what it is for me now. I ask how many colors exist in the spectrum of sound. I hear blue yesteryears colliding with red hot todays. And what is there to say about tomorrow that hasn't already been said about the end of our world? Unfortunate truths they unfurl. They say it takes unlearning to get to the soul of yourself. I guess my toxic traits have a color too. Red, white, and blue. Oh, and green. Green, the color of willful ignorance. And green, the color of I need to get these bills paid too. I pursue a happiness that's been called criminal. Called the cops nearby, wonder what's so funny. Called the joke is I become target under suburban skies. Become delinquent under the weight of nobility's lies.
The track is called Color for Hope. From our guest in this hour, George Burton. The new project is called White Noise, or the album is called White Noise. This track is called Color for Hope. Tell me about it, George.
Oh, Color for Hope is the track. The track is done. It has a poet on it by the name of Dante Clark. It has a lot to do with hope and despair, some emotional complexities of being a black person in the United States or anywhere for that matter. And what we try to put out with this track is finding the beauty and the struggle and be able to push forward past that, you know?
Yeah. Turn it up, Miles.
Simmer, my pulse has long left my breath behind, gasping in the shadow of my withdrawn heart.
George, why'd you name this album White Noise?
Oh, so that's a long story.
I got time.
Okay, all right. Let me slow down then. We can get to the nitty gritty of it.
Yeah.
So I had this concept. I started writing this project a little while ago. I wrote some projects since then.
Mm-hmm.
But this particular project, I started writing around 2021. And as a musician, we didn't have much to do. We were still kind of floating around, trying to figure out how to make a couple dollars. And I made I had the idea to buy something called modular Moogs. So me being a pianist, I'm used to having keys under me. I have to have full control of it.
Mm-hmm.
What I decided to do was to take these modular Moogs, which has no keys. It has just buttons and sound waves and LFOs, pretty nerdy stuff. And I bought a bunch of them, and I started really working with them. Now, the thing that's interesting about the situation is, as I was working with those, I was watching news like everybody else. And the idea of that was like, because I couldn't turn them off because they're not digital, they kept playing all the time. So I would have these things playing for weeks at a time, just turn them down low and just keep playing.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea of white noise came to me because it was as I'm watching TV, and this is going for weeks and weeks and weeks, and we had the whole George Floyd thing, and then, experience after each other. I started to really think about what we are doing, or what I was doing in the United States or in my life, and the things and the pressures that are always kind of like on my shoulder. And what causes these pressures on my shoulder. And it's like, no matter how far up you go, there's always this little bit of pressure that's coming from a society that's not exactly, I want to say, ours, if I may say.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where that idea came from about white noise. And through this whole entire album, every single track except for one has a Moog behind it that's constantly playing. Even if you don't notice it, it's constantly playing. And I look at it as from the perspective of, this is how, I'm going through life. And these are the problems that I see and the problems that I need to get through. And,
Mm-hmm.
and it's interesting because when I started this project and I talked to each individual about this particular project,
Mm-hmm.
Everybody easily contributed where I didn't have to do hardly anything at all to change the narrative of the album. I didn't have to give them no prompts. I didn't say, do this, do that. They just I said, this is the idea. And they all understood what I was saying and approached it from a different perspective, which was beautiful to me.
Mm-hmm. This question is a bit different than the question I just asked, although there's an overlap, so I'll let you take it and do what you will with it. I asked why the title White Noise. I'm curious now as to how you would describe the sound of this work. I played a couple tracks already. I'm going to play another one here in a second called What Do We Do in the Present. That one really got me. And I'll let you explain is right. I'll let you explain the backstory behind that in a second, even before I play it. So you've explained why you called it white noise. How would you describe the sound of this work? Because there are so many sounds sonically at work here.
The sound of this work. All right, so let's go back to church a little bit.
Yeah.
The thing that connects church connects to jazz. The thing that connects to jazz connects to coastal music. The thing that connects to coastal music connects to rock and roll. The thing that connects to rock and roll connects to alternative music. And the thing about that common thread about all these styles of music is kind of comes from the black culture. And the thing about that is as we're doing that and I'm connecting these dots, these are all the influences that I've had in my life. Although I grew up playing classical violin and classical piano. That's a whole other story.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where it all connects to that and the white noise being behind it. And that's pretty much where we are with it for right now in a simple way of saying.
Yeah. The black church, you mentioned it twice. I raised it and I said I want to get to it. Let's get to it right now. Tell me about your black church upbringing.
My black church upbringing, I grew up under two church musicians. My mom was a violin player. My dad was a church organist. And in the 90s, we grew up in black church. It was, every Sunday, every Wednesday, every Friday, Saturday, and the biggest thing that I took away from it, not like the biggest thing I took away from it, because that's not even entirely true what I'm about to say, but the music aspect of it was the strongest thing that hit me and helped me understand a lot of things about myself, a lot of things about spirituality, a lot of things about, things that mattered to me in certain moments of time in my life. And the thing about black church is, or from my perspective, some of the best musicians I've ever met in my life come from black church.
Mm-hmm.
It's just one of those things. I think you can pick any musician that's under probably any artist. They're all like, yeah, I played in church at some point in time throughout, at some point in time. That's what it is. So that's my black church in a very basic way pertaining to the music.
I'm gonna press a little harder because I'm curious. What black church was this?
Germantown Christian Assembly in Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of church is it?
It was a non-denominational church.
Right.
But the interesting thing about it, because my dad was a church musician, I was going to a lot of different churches all the time. So there was that one. There was Triumph, but I was in North Philly.
Right.
There was all the churches that was around.
Yeah.
So many of them.
But your dad,
we were going to churches all the time.
Yeah. But your dad played the Hammond B3.
Oh yeah.
Man,
my dad played the Hammond B3. He was, and you know, it's interesting about it because my dad played organ, and he was an amazing organ player. Had perfect pitch, had the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I will not touch the organ.
Why not?
I know, it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
The organ, it's a beast amongst itself. You know, I'm a pianist, and I treat the piano like a piano. And
right.
When you go to the organ, it's a whole different beast to me. You know, I like to respect it. Yes, I can like technically play it.
Yeah.
But to get the right feeling and the right sounds, and to be able to pull the things that I want to pull out of it, I would literally need to shed it, and I don't have the time to shed it in the way I would like to.
I'm going to say something now that I've never said before publicly, and it may get me in some trouble. But if no better person than you to argue with about this, given all the instruments that you can and do play, even though you don't touch the Hammond B3. Here's my read of it. Now, I'm raised in a Pentecostal church, so you understand the background of this comment I'm about to make. All right.
Yes, I do.
I do not believe that there's any instrument. I'm going way out on a limb here, George. I warn you. I'm going way out.
Oh, be careful! Be careful! Be careful!
I'm throwing caution to the wind at this point. I ain't gonna be careful. I'm going out. All right. I don't believe, as I speak to a talented musician, that there is any instrument that allows you to be more soulful than the Hammond B3. If you know how to work that thing, there is no instrument that I think allows you to be more soulful than a Hammond B3. Now you can push back.
Now you're throwing me under the bus with this. See?
Push back. Push back.
All right. So I can agree where you're coming from with the Hammond B3. There's a soulful thing that comes with that.
Yeah.
But my idea of soulful, here it is. It depends on what your idea of soulful and what it comes from and what it means for you.
Sure.
Because I can listen to a string quartet that has the right arrangement to it and be like, you know, that's a very soulful string quartet, depending on how it was written and what it was written for. I can listen to a pianist play some very soulful things, and I'm like, you know, that's really killing. But it might be, I think it may come more to like, okay, so my wife has this thing where she's a music therapist, and she always talks about how music, all her patients, like they connect to the music that meant the most in their lives at certain points in time.
Right.
So for a lot of people from church, that's the organ, because that was the primary instrument in a lot of these churches, in the Pentecostal churches. And so therefore, when you go back to it, that for you might be the most soulful thing.
Yeah.
But for other people, it might be the bagpipes. You know what I mean?
Well, there are two things. I hear you. And again, that's why I said I'm jumping out here. And that's why I use that phrase. Right. I'm very careful to use the phrase more soulful, not to suggest, because my favorite instrument, frankly, is the piano. That's my favorite instrument, is the piano.
Oh, killer.
Yeah. But I don't think you can be any more soulful, and you certainly can't be more funky than you can be on a B3 if you know what you're doing.
Well, if you know, that's why I kind of stay away from that one. I mean, you know, if I can get it to where I need it, but I need to put some time in a little bit.
So here's my next question. Now that we're done with that ballroom brawl about the instrument that can allow you to be most soulful, we're done with that brawl. How does one trained in a two-part question, which I tend not to do, but I'll ask both. You can handle it. I'll get out of your way. How does one trained in classical violin and piano end up doing what you are doing? And how does being trained in classical violin and piano help you do what you are doing? So how did it help you?
So this is an interesting thing. Growing up, you know, I grew up in Philly, and I always talk about like two different worlds that I lived in growing up. One world that I lived in growing up was going to church, you know, going down to North Philly to visit my grandmother, doing that whole scene, the black scene. The other side of the scene was I lived on the border of the suburbs. So my mom was a violin player, and she was like, all right, if you want to take lessons, we're going to take you to this particular school settlement, which was on the other side, which we can call the other side of the tracks to be safe.
Sure.
And I had a ton of influences growing up. So I'm playing classical violin. You know, I was concertmaster here, quartets here. And then I would go back to my grandmother's house, and then I was back in the church and listen to church music. And then I'll go to my uncle's house, and he's playing, you know, Ray Brown and, you know, all those cats. So it's, over the years, it all kind of keep mushing together. And it just became a part of me. Like music is just kind of what it is I do. You know, it's you pick a style. I've checked it pretty much all out at this point. But it was a lot of time, a lot of studying. doing classical helped me, read a lot of music. My theory, doing arrangements, writing for orchestrations and things of that nature.
Yeah.
But that's all from like early training.
Yeah.
And then I had the other training in church that allowed me to understand this other particular sounds of music that, it's not really present in classical music. So you get this mix, and over time it grows in you. And then for me, it just mushed together.
Yeah. So Miles, do this. I want to play this track. What do we do in the present? Take me out with this, Miles. Take me all the way out with it. And when we come forward, we'll reprise a bit of it and let George Burton talk about it. But take me out with, from the new project, White Noise by George Burton, what do we do in the present?
And right now, white people are really frightened. The main problem confronting the United States today is there aren't enough white babies being born in this country. Babies. White people will lose their numerical majority in this country, and this will no longer be a white man's land. One of the main traumas is it tells white people that they are superior because of the lack of melanin in their skin. Living a lie, finding out the truth, is traumatic. Finding out now, recently, that within 30 years, white people will be in the numerical minority in this country is going to be traumatic. White people are scared to death right now, particularly white males. They're scared to death that they are going to lose their power in the future. And they are. But if you want to get ready for the future, if you want to be treated well in the future, treat others well in the present. What we do in the present constructs the future. The future, 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 the future.
This is getting good. Yeah, man. Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know the United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time? Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 things you should know from BIN News. A Republican-led congressional panel is investigating Fulton County, Georgia DA Bonnie Willis's prosecution of Donald Trump. Her ex, former Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade, appeared for a closed-door deposition yesterday about the election interference case. Several Chicago, Illinois U.S. postal workers are fed up with their working conditions. A rally was recently held in downtown Federal Plaza. They are demanding more protection because letter carriers have been assaulted, robbed, and killed while delivering mail. A major cool down is in the works across the country. Over 60 million people were under some type of freeze or frost alert yesterday. Today, temperatures will drop again, which could produce the coldest day since the spring for millions of Americans. And the New York Jets have traded for wide receiver Devontae Adams. The Las Vegas Raiders are sending over Adams in exchange for a conditional third-round draft pick that could be bumped up to a second-round selection. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 at BINnews.com.
Some people just know you could save money on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Those people are probably saving a carload of cash right now. So what are you waiting for? Check Allstate first for a quote today. You're in good hands with Allstate.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers are back on the field tonight against the Mets in the National League Championship Series. Game 3 in the best-of-7 jumps off at 5 o'clock. The next 3 games are in New York. Dodgers manager Dave Roberts said he is not moving Shohei Ohtani in the batting order to give him more chances to bat with runners on base. Roberts is keeping Ohtani in the leadoff position. Here's something to keep on your radar if Ohtani continues to struggle in the playoffs. Ohtani is 0 for 19 at the plate with the bases empty. He's 6 for 8 with men on base. Stay tuned on this situation. Interesting development in the Lakers preseason game Tuesday night against Golden State in Vegas. Most of the crowd of 16,000 stood up and cheered when Bronny James entered the game with 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Bronny finished the game but had only 2 points. He was 1 for 5 and missed all 3 of his 3-point shots. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Race, culture wars, political turf battles, criminal justice and injustice, the courts. These are the conversations you won't hear elsewhere. My guests are leading journalists, celebrities, and sports figures, elected leaders, and influencers. They aren't afraid to get into it and say the quiet part out loud. With Ariva Martin in real time, your commute just became the most engaging part of your day. Tune in weekdays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. or find us on YouTube. Ariva Martin in real time, when you want it straight, no chaser.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. Blindster is a family-run business that began in 2010, and we've sold millions of custom blinds, shades, and shutters and received over 100,000 five-star reviews. Don't hire an expensive pro. Do it yourself and save big at Blindster.com.
So this new dose is, well, nope, that's not it. The price is nowhere to be found.
Mr. Green? Hi, it's all good. We've got this.
This is not just help from a Walgreens pharmacist.
Oh, new prescriptions. Cool. Let me check to see if these are the lowest cost options covered by your Medicare plan.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
This is someone supporting you every step of the way. Chat with a pharmacist today to find help saving. This is the human kind of help. Walgreens.
Point!
Hey, you okay? You don't normally miss those shots.
I just haven't been as regular lately, and it's making me feel sluggish.
You should try Metamucil. It's been a game changer for me. Metamucil's plant-based psyllium fiber helps trap and remove the waste that weighs you down.
Ace!
You're moving better than you were last week.
Definitely.
Metamucil keeps you moving. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Learn more at metamucil.com.
The smarter way to clean your floors. It's time to make the swap. Swiffer Power Mop.
Introducing the new Swiffer Power Mop, the all-in-one tool that gives you a mop and bucket clean in half the time. The solution's built right in, so no heavy bucket, and the pad has hundreds of scrubbing strips to get deep into grout. Don't mop harder, mop smarter.
Swiffer Power Mop. Swiffer Power Mop.
And the top-rated African-American talk show host in the nation, according to Talkers Magazine. You're tapped in with Tavis Smiley right now.
Interruption, interference. It's kinda like when signals get crossed and you hearing a little static. It's corrupting my inner spirit. Out of body experiences, remember the middle passage. Akhenaten, my subconscious is consequentially inflicted by the vindictive of victories within my vision. CW's network television, the revolution won't be on Hulu, Tubi, or YouTube. It's in the music, they call it hoodoo or voodoo, something they not used to, but this magic in us is foolproof.
This track is called The Wait. I'll let George Burton describe this one or define this one in a moment, and we'll get back to what do we do in the present, the track we played before the break. Our guest is George Burton, the visionary artist, composer, producer. His new project is called White Noise. Some have called this a master class in sonic storytelling. That's high praise. A master class in sonic storytelling. This track, again, George, is called The Wait. Tell me about The Wait, sir.
So The Wait is, I have teamed up with a great group out of Detroit called The Black Opera. And this track really, really, really talks about the idea of capitalism and how it affects us in our world in a real way. The topics that's covered in this is you have to listen to it like 3, 4, 5 times to get it all. They talk about, the first thing is how artists are not paid for what they want to do, and the effects that they have on our society as far as like a mental stress, as far as our having to see therapists, but wanting to see black therapists, or we needing to see black therapists that look like us. It goes through a whole list of things that I felt deeply about. And it's a good one. I mean, I think it's a good one. I like it the best.
I get it. And when I first saw the title, say nothing of actually hearing the work, that title says it all, does it not? The Wait.
I mean, it's heavy. I mean, it's a lot in there. It's heavy. I mean, it's just something we got to walk around with that, that white noise on our shoulder that kind of holds us down a little bit more. You know what I mean? It's still there. Yeah. Those are the things we carry with us. It's the thing that we talk about generational,
Yeah, I was this was years ago, and for whatever reason, this just came back to me when we were playing this track and with the title of The Wait. Years ago, I was in training for a marathon, and for days I would walk around with these weights on my ankles, right?
Mm-hmm.
Training for this marathon, I got these weights on, and then at the appropriate time at practice, we take the weights off. I take the weights off. Sometimes I ran with the weights on. But you take my point about anybody who's ever worn weights, you understand why you do that. You take them off again.
Right.
You take them off again at the appropriate time. And I remember years ago just thinking in that moment, I mean, I've been doing this for a while. In that moment, I was just thinking about the weight that black people carry around every day. And how I felt, how different, how much better I felt when it was time to take those weights off and you're not carrying all that around. It's not so easy for black people just to bend over or to bend down and take the weights off. But when you think about the weight, that's why I love that track, love the title. You think about the weight that we carry around as black people all the time. It's a serious burden. It's a serious burden. And that doesn't mean I'm feeling sorry for us. It doesn't mean that we've not achieved against all the odds. But there is a reality to the weight that we carry around all day long. As I mentioned, this album, White Noise, has been defined by some as a master class in sonic storytelling. And that's always fascinating for me, how you can take these themes, take these issues, take these real-world issues that we wrestle with every single day and make it sonically pleasing. What's the trick to taking difficult, thorny topics and making it entertaining? Because I don't want to be, I don't want you preaching to me. I don't mind hearing it. I still need to be entertained by the music. How do you pull that part off?
So how do I pull that part off? To me, it's all intertwined. You know what I mean? Music and life and life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. There we go. I said it. Mm-hmm. It's all intertwined. You know what I mean? And there's the best way for my understanding of how people generally work. The best way to introduce subjects or topics is introducing these things in a way that they can stomach, that they can. It's more palatable. And I'm not from the idea of making speeches or things of that nature. I'm not from the idea of thinking all that always works at every time, because everybody doesn't want that at all points in time. So I just took all these ideas and try to put them in one place where everybody can kind of get something from it, if anything, they can reflect on their own lives and see other things that they can change for themselves, or actually open their eyes to how the world is actually working a little bit more than having to watch like CNN or whatever news channel you're watching, or trying to read through a bunch of articles, which is something I read like all the time, but it's not for everybody. So for me, it was putting it in music and trying to put it in a way that's, palatable is the best way to get it to people so they can see what's actually going on, if they can see what's actually going on. Some people may not even get all that. Yeah. But, that's just what it is.
Earlier we played, and I probably didn't do it the best way because we were headed toward a break, and I want to just give the audience something to think about as we went to break. But the track is called What Do We Do in the Present? I love that ending, the future, the future, the future, the future, the future. Tell me about that track, What Do We Do in the Present, George Burton?
So let's talk about Miss Jane Elliott, who, if anybody's checked anything out, Miss Jane Elliott is she speaks truth. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. She just kind of calls it what it is, and you just got to swallow it. If you can't take it, you can't take it. But she's pretty straight up about it. But this particular track, I found the interview that she was giving, and she was talking about a book. And this is where it gets interesting. She was talking about a book called The Birth Dearth. The Birth Dearth, as she explained to me, because I hit her up and I was like, hey, Miss Elliott, I found this, can I please use it? And I broke this interview up into different pieces. But The Birth Dearth was written by what she referred to as a misguided Jewish male, a brilliant misguided Jewish male by the name of Ben Wattenberg. And there's two quotes in here that I used that she quoted that was so important to me because it pertains to today. She used one where it said, there aren't enough white babies born in this country. And another quote that I used was, white people will lose their numerical minority in this country, and this will no longer be a white man's land. Now, when you take that in from a particular perspective, you kind of understand that there's more going on than like the surface thing of just like abortion, or the surface thing of, it's like immigration is not really about immigration. Abortion is not really always about abortion. Critical race theory isn't always about critical race theory, So instead, they are like the fact that many white people, they kind of value whiteness over democracy, and that's how I feel that's always been based off the history that I've checked out and what's happening today. And this book was written 35 years ago, I believe, and it's today. It's like, wait, so we're still here, huh? It's in plain view now, as opposed to years ago where, we didn't have phones, we didn't have all this information, but it's in plain view now, and we're still talking about these same exact subjects. So, like, if we check out history, everything changes. Nothing stays the same. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Nobody who's in power stays in power. Every superpower, crashes at some point in time. But, like, who's on top after that and how they treat people sometimes depends on how the people who are at the bottom were actually treated in the first place. Mm-hmm. So, if we look at it today, we're fighting against what? Or some people are fighting against certain things, and we all want to do better going forward. What you do now is going to dictate how the future is going to play out.
Yeah, that's a great title. Everything you've just described that's in the song is arresting, certainly gets one's attention. And the title goes right along with it, as it should. What do we do in the present? And George Burton makes the point quite powerfully. He makes it sonically in that track, but verbally, audibly here in this conversation, he's absolutely right that how you treat people today has a huge impact on what the future will look like. The present and the future are never that disconnected. Our guest is George Burton. His new project is called A White Noise. More with him. He's got some dates coming up I'll share with you. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Generous listening. Charitable listening. It's why everybody wants to talk to Tavis. The conversation continues when we come forward.
We ask seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well-trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone, and should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month. If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your Senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
Vice President Kamala Harris.
I get it. The cost of rent, groceries, and utilities is too high. So here's what we're going to do about it. We will lower housing costs by building more homes and crack down on landlords who are charging too much. We will lower your food and grocery bills by going after price gougers who are keeping the cost of everyday goods too high.
Kamala Harris's economic plan is focused on lowering costs for families, so you can keep more of your paycheck. That starts with the cost of housing. For first-time homebuyers, she's offering $25,000 in down payment assistance. To build wealth, her plan offers up to $50,000 in new startup tax deductions. This is exactly how we can build generational wealth and strengthen our community, so we can get the chance to do more than just get by, but to get ahead.
You work hard for your paycheck. You should get to keep more of it. As president, I'll make that my top priority.
I'm Kamala Harris, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Harris for President.
Tavis Smiley's new book, The Covenant with Black America, 20 years later, is now on sale everywhere. This classic text shot to #1 on the New York Times bestsellers list almost 2 decades ago. If you have the original book, you will surely want to get this 20th anniversary edition with powerful new contributions from today's leading voices. This 20th anniversary edition presents a compelling blend of historical insights and contemporary urgency in this critical and unprecedented election year. Get your copy of The Covenant with Black America 20 years later today.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
Freedom is an endless meeting, so let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and artist, composer, producer George Burton talking about his new project called White Noise. He will be at Cape May Convention Hall in Cape May, New Jersey on October the 25th and at the Bitter End in New York City on November the 1st. Once again, October 25 at Cape May Convention Hall in Cape May, New Jersey. And on the 1st of November, you can catch him in New York at the Bitter End. George, there is my word here, and we've been talking about this for the hour, and for those who've been listening, I think they kind of sense this. They can feel it when they hear the music. But there's a sense of urgency that I hear, that I feel when I listen to this album. Obviously, that was deliberate on your part, but tell me about this sense of urgency that I'm feeling and what that's all about.
The sense of urgency. You turn on the TV right now. There are things happening in our world that, I mean, I always hear people say, "Oh, this is trying times we live in," and I'm always like, "When has it never been trying times?" But there's something that's happening that I believe that's happening that's a little bit different, and it's in plain view now where we can all see it, and that's when it gets really, really crazy, because it's like, well, if you can't follow the rules that you set up and they can't follow the rules that you set up, it kind of like, well, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? So these are all the things that we, as far as from my perspective, that we as a culture have been going through. And these are the things that have been happening to us. And this may be a time for things to change. Now, mind you, this is interesting because I started writing this album back in 2021. And I had no idea that we would be on the cusp of maybe having the first black female president.
Yeah. Nope.
I couldn't time that better.
Yeah. That's one frame that we are potentially on the verge of having the first black female president. The other frame is that we discussed this in this hour, that this project White Noise is a powerful story of black resilience, but also it gives voice to protest on a global scale. So there's that. There's always something to celebrate in black America, but the fight continues. And as you said earlier, not just in this country, but on a global scale, people of color, black people in particular, those with melanin in their skin are catching hell every single day. And I think,
everywhere.
And I think the album, the project speaks to that as well. Our remaining moments with George Burton when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Why does Tavis say, when we come forward? Because he's not going back. And you don't have to go back either. Forward ever. backward never. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you, when we fight, we win. The Youth Justice Coalition is challenging America's addiction to incarceration and discrimination. YJC works to dismantle policies leading to mass incarceration, law enforcement violence, and the school-to-prison pipeline. Their approach? Transformative justice, community intervention, free LA high school, legal defense, and system monitoring. YJC promotes safety without relying on prisons. Their goal? Prevent system contact and help people exit the system through direct action, advocacy, and education. Want to get involved or need help? Call 323-235-4243. That's 323-235-4243. Join YJC in creating change. When we fight, we win. KBLA Talk 1580, your voice for justice. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
Hey, John, why so glum?
I just got let go. The company's downsizing. This is the third time in the last 2 years. I'm done with this.
Have you thought about My Computer Career? I've heard they can train you for a career in IT in just a few months, including cybersecurity and the basics of AI. And you don't need prior training or experience. Now that's a recession-resistant career.
Wow, thanks. I'll check them out.
Go to mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career evaluation. mycomputercareer.edu. Financial aid is available for qualified students, including the GI Bill.
Less monologue, more dialogue. Tavis Smiley continues right now.
Does indeed for the next 4 minutes with our guest in this hour. We've been talking about his new project, White Noise. His name is George Burton. You can catch him again at the Cape May Convention Hall in Cape May, New Jersey, October 25th. The Bitter End in New York City on November the 1st. I want to close this conversation, George, with a tribute to your hometown of Philadelphia. Given that you are being heard right now on WURD, I am honored to be on that station in Philly, as we are on stations all across the country. But so much of your we tapped on this just a little bit. I want to sort of double click it if we can. So much of your approach, I think, to lyric and production is rooted in your upbringing in Philly. And I was just thinking, as I do often in moments like these, about all the artists from a particular city, in this case your hometown. Don't get me started. Gamble and Huff, Jill Scott, Music, yeah. Will Smith, Patti LaBelle, Hall & Oates, Theodore Pendergrass, The Roots, on and Sister Rosetta Thorpe. I could do this all day long. The artists
it's wild,
that Philadelphia has given us. What's it like to know that you are being raised in a place that has given the world so much great music?
I mean, it's an honor. Honestly, it's an honor. You know, I've had this conversation with many people when they talk about the education of Philadelphia. And they talk about why we have so many people that come out of there. You know, our community is so strong. You know, it's you grew up with friends, and you get teachers who are in the Philadelphia Orchestra. You get teachers who were in the jazz scene that was traveling worldwide. You get teachers that were in the city playing music, and you know, they all put their information or give us all the information willingly. It's a great learning city, you know, and it's produced a lot of us for all the different reasons. not just one specific thing that we do, but everybody from that city takes music seriously on a very high level. So,
yeah, no, it's a great place to be part of a grand music tradition. How the tour? You're doing dates for this. It's one thing to put a project out, but it's another thing to see how people receive it when you perform it live. How are audiences responding and reacting to it?
The audience will respect. I did a show here in New York for Nine Orchard for a DJ, and we did a lot. We did pretty much all the music from the album, and they took it very well. I mean, I was kind of nervous because it's one thing to play music for people. It's another thing to play with a very specific theme behind it. That's kind of on the raw side. And let's be honest, this audience wasn't an audience of all us. So it was interesting to watch their reactions and their comments about it. And I had one person come up to me and they were like, I listened to your album before you came, and it made me think about a lot of the ways that I may not be doing things right in terms of this whole entire process that's going on in the world. So that's a big thing for me. One person at a time. I mean, we've heard this a lot.
Yeah. Nope, that's it. A perfect place to leave this conversation. That's the way the world changes, right? One person at a time. But that doesn't happen without music being on the soundtrack of our lives. And so, as I said earlier, it's always the artists who push us to think and hopefully to act, to do our part to make the world a better place when we leave it than when we found it, and I will leave it there. The project is called White Noise. It's George Burton's latest project. Again, Cape May Convention Hall on October 25th. In Cape May, New Jersey, the Bitter End, New York City on November the 1st. George, have a great tour finishing out promotion of this particular project. I've enjoyed this conversation. I thank you for the time and wish you all the best, good sir.
Thank you.
Good to have you on. Just like that, 3 hours gone. Back here tomorrow, Lord willing, to do it all over again. Until tomorrow, thanks for tuning in to Tavis Smiley. And as always, keep the faith.